Question 62, trachea and bronchi. Here we have the trachea and the principal bronchi, lobar bronchi and segmental bronchi. The trachea extends from the 6th cervical to the 4th thoracic vertebrae. It is subdivided into cervical and thoracic parts. It extends from the lower part of cricoid cartilage to the tracheal bifurcation, the division into the bronchi. It is composed of 16 to 20 tracheal cartilages. These are incomplete rings of hyaline cartilage. Here you see a cross section. And the rings are connected by ligaments, annular tracheal ligaments. The lower border of the last cartilage is prolonged into a hook-shaped process called carina. It is directed backwards in between the two bronchi. The posterior part of the trachea is a membranous wall. It contains smooth muscle fibers called trachealis muscle, and it is lined with trachea is lined with mucosa containing mucosal glands. The external surface is attached to neighboring structures by adventitia. Now for the relations of the trachea. The cervical part. Anterior you have the body of thyroid gland, and you have the inferior thyroid veins here. You have infrahyoid muscles in front and skin and fascia of the neck. Posteriorly you have esophagus, and laterally you have recurrent laryngeal nerves. Here you barely see one. This is recurrent laryngeal nerve that would go up here. And laterally you also have the lobes of the thyroid gland and the common carotid arteries. The thoracic part, here you see the first rib. Thoracic part lies in the mediastinum. Anteriorly we have inferior thyroid veins and thymus, heart in pericardium, brachiocephalic veins and brachiocephalic artery and left common carotid artery. Posteriorly we have esophagus. You see esophagus here. It would go up behind. And on the right you have the Esophagus vein. Here, Esophagus vein. The right vagus nerve. This is the vagus nerve that would go in. And it accompanies the esophagus. And the right lung. And on the left you have arch of aorta, left laryngeal recurrent nerve, that's this one, it goes in behind and up again, and you have left lung. The blood supply is by inferior thyroid artery and bronchial arteries from the aorta. See here a bronchial. And the nerve supply passes from the cervical and thoracic ganglia, go to respiratory system, and also vagus nerve. See trachea. Next we have bronchi. And you have a right and left bronchi. The right one is wider and shorter and is about 2.5 centimeters in length, and it's more vertical than the left one. And its pulmonary route is related to the pulmonary artery in front and the Esophagus vein behind. So this is the pulmonary hilum. So the bronchus lies above the pulmonary artery, so you have bronchus, artery and veins. And the division of the principal bronchus, this is the right one, it divides into superior, middle and inferior lobar bronchi. And the superior lobar bronchus divides into 3 segmental, apical, anterior and posterior. The middle divides into medial and lateral, and the inferior lobar bronchus divides into apical, anterior, posterior, medial and lateral. The left principal bronchus is narrower and longer, it's about 5 centimeters in length, and it passes obliquely downwards. In the pulmonary route it is related to aortic arch, that curves above and behind, and the pulmonary artery in front. And in the pulmonary hilum, the pulmonary artery is placed above the bronchus, so you have artery, bronchus and vein. And the principal bronchus is divided into superior and inferior lobar bronchus. The superior lobar bronchus branches into 4 or 5 segmental bronchi. You have apico-posterior or apical and posterior, anterior, superior, anterior and inferior. The inferior lobar bronchus divides into 5 segmental bronchi, the apical, posterior, anterior, medial and lateral. Now the bronchial wall is made up, the principal bronchi are of the same inner structure as the trachea, and the lobar and segmental bronchi contain pieces of cartilage embedded in fibromuscular membrane, and bronchi are lined with mucous membrane. The blood supply of bronchi are bronchial arteries, and the bronchial veins are drained into the Esophagus vein. Nerve supply is by the vagus nerve, and of the thoracic sympathetic trunk.